Hello, hello! It's Business Partner B1 Plus, Unit 7, Working Abroad, Lesson 7.1, Global Work Cultures, Part B. This lesson is about living abroad. It's about moving abroad to work. It isn't like going for fun. It isn't traveling as a tourist, but it is a trip to stay. Wow, would you like to do that? Have you done that? Let's talk about this. And if you work in a big company, if you think about moving abroad, this video is for you. So strike your like and let's watch part B of the lesson. I'll leave in the card and in the end, part A of the lesson, talking about global work cultures, in which we had 4 people talking about moving to an or culture of their countries, like the Brazilian Rodrigo, or there's a Swedish guy that lives in England. There's also a woman from Poland, and another one from Germany. It's very nice, the lesson is great, and we are having the second part. If we think about different cultures, it is very likely that we are going to talk about adjectives. Adjectives to describe different cultures, different aspects of society, different etiquettes, things like this. And the first exercise is about this. What are the opposites of these words to describe people? Are the prefix such as this, im, in, or an, or write the antonym opposite, the opposite. We have here some qualities, some positive and some negative ones. And the idea is for us to play with these prefixes. They all talk about the opposite, right? For example, satisfied, dissatisfied, possible, do-do-do, 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 do-do. Do you know this song? Mission Impossible. Yes, or complete, incomplete, fair, unfair. And we have these words here. For example, direct. What's the opposite of direct using a prefix like this? Is it disdirect, indirect, indirect, or indirect? You know, it is indirect, right? For friendly, we have the opposite with the prefix and some other words that are the opposite of friendly. For example, we have the word unfriendly. A person can be open because the person is friendly, but there's a reserved person. A reserved person isn't a bad person. The person doesn't want that you don't succeed in life. The person is just a bit distant, okay? And the person can be your friend, but it's a reserved friend. A friendly person is very open and talks a lot, and so on. Another opposite of friendly is shy. Like me, I'm so shy. Not really, right? But it's not wrong to be shy. It's okay. All right, let's move on. Formal. What is the opposite of formal? Informal. All right? Honest, dishonest, dishonest. Helpful, unhelpful, right? Kind, unkind. What's the opposite of kind, apart from unkind? Cruel. Cruel is another opposite to kind. After that, we have polite. Polite is a very nice quality, right? But here we have the opposite, that is impolite. Impolite. And we also have rude. Rude is another opposite for polite. Reserved. Well, reserved we can have friendly or sociable, communicative, open, outgoing. Sociable. Sociable can be unsociable or uncommunicative, unfriendly, or reserved. Respectful. Oh, that's a very nice quality, right? Respectful can be, or the opposite can be disrespectful. Okay, let's move on to part B of this exercise because we are going to use these adjectives or their opposites. Can we use the opposites? Why not? But now we are going to use them and complete. Look, complete these sentences with suitable adjectives. The first letters are given, so they help us. People in our culture come across as quite and communicative when you first meet them. Well, I would say friendly. Why don't we open it here? Can we open here? Let's jump into part B. And we have here friendly, right? Well, Brazilian people tend to be friendly and communicative when you first meet them. Some parts of the country more than in other parts. In Rio de Janeiro, people are really communicative. They're very nice people. You should always be and generous with visitors. And we expect to be treated the same way when we go abroad. Oh, that's okay, right? I agree with that. So, you should always be sociable and generous with visitors. It is common to say what you think with people in my country. If you're too indirect, people won't understand you or might even think you are dishonest. Well, to be honest, it's common to say that people in Brazil are a bit indirect. They are more direct. Well, yes, I remember people being very direct in Rio de Janeiro and more indirect in São Paulo, where I'm from. I tend to be indirect sometimes, but I know that in places like Germany, people are usually direct. If you're too indirect, people could think that you are dishonest. Ooh, I don't want people to think that I'm dishonest. No. People here tend to be very understanding and helpful if you have a language problem. Oh, I was so well treated in England when I visited the country. They treated me very well. I believe that they noticed that I was a tourist. They helped me in all circumstances. Strangers in the street. Oh, sorry, could you help me? And people would help me, would use other words. They would help me all the time. I was really helped and grateful and thankful to English people. Very nice experience. But when I was working abroad, some people were rude to me because I didn't speak English fluently at first. That was mean and unkind. Helpful and unkind. Well, it never happened to me in England. It is very important to be to managers and those in authority, To be rude? No, to be respectful to managers and those in authority. You shouldn't be impolite, informal. Okay, Brazilians tend to be informal in some circumstances, even to managers. Not respecting people is considered very impolite in my country. Well, the point is that to be informal in Brazil, try is a way to show that you are being friendly, not disrespectful or impolite. But sometimes we have to be formal and to emphasize respect in a relationship, especially when there are problems. This is the situation in some circumstances when there are problems. You see, you try to be more respectful than usual. It helps in some circumstances. Here, why do people in your country go to work abroad? Some Brazilians go abroad to try to get better jobs. Some people want to go abroad to study, to have an international experience, to have a better degree. It's common. Some people go abroad because of these reasons. Which countries or regions are popular? Lots of people go to the United States, to England. From Lavras, in Lavras, there's a federal university, and they established many partnerships. But there was one some 15, 20 years ago that was very common. It was one of the first ones with a university in the Netherlands. So lots of people would go and stay 6 months or 1 year in the Netherlands, and people loved the experience. Are you thinking about going abroad to study for some time? Do it. It will be unforgettable. What are the advantages and disadvantages of working or studying abroad? Let me start with some disadvantages. You are far from your family. Some people would say it's an advantage. But in my case, it would be a disadvantage. You wouldn't stay in your house, so you would have to adapt to new circumstances. Maybe you wouldn't know anybody at first, so you would need to make friends with others. Depending on the place where you are going to or the place you came from, there could be some prejudice involved. Unfortunately, some advantages. If you are going to get a better situation in life. And if you get those things, the results can be very positive in the long run. But it can be a wonderful experience, learning new cultures, about a new culture, learning a language maybe, having access to top professionals in your area. Wow, there are many reasons. Why don't you write in the comments your ideas about advantages and disadvantages of moving abroad? 3. Would you like to work or study abroad? Why or why not? Well, I would like to go and work abroad if I could. Study abroad, why not? And, well, why? Because of these positive reasons. You make friends, you visit places, you learn a new culture. I would improve my English if I went to an English-speaking country. Depending on the country, I could have a wonderful time. For example, imagine if I moved to Jamaica. Wonderful weather, very nice people. It would be so great, so good. I would love to go there. In Lavras, Minas Gerais, where I used to live, there was a guy who spent 5, 10 years living in Jamaica. He only had positive things to talk about. It was a wonderful experience for him. He was a musician and he worked with electricity and he would play music at the nightlife in Lavras. And he loved remembering the experience of living in Jamaica. Why not? Try Jamaica, an English speaking country with very nice weather, very nice people. 4. If you went to work or study abroad, which country would you choose? I can't say that I would choose Jamaica because I don't know any opportunities there, but I could try to find one. I have a friend who's living in Utah, United States, and I said once, maybe I was a bit depressed, oh, I would like to leave Brazil. He said, just come. Well, going isn't so easy. Documents, money for the trip, and all the other things that we saw in part A of the video. You have access to part A of this lesson if you see in the card or in the end of the video, okay? But it was a very nice invitation, very good friend. And how long do you think it would take you to adapt? To an English-speaking country, maybe 3 months, 1 month, 6 months, depending on what kind of things. Maybe the weather, it would take some time to adapt to very cold winters. Here, where I'm living now, far from Minas Gerais, it's much colder. So it's hard to adapt to 0 degrees Celsius. Very hard, very hard. 2 weeks ago, it was 3 degrees. And it was very, very cold for me. But maybe you live in a country where minus 10 degrees Celsius is common in winter. Tell me, because I think it would be very cold. I don't have clothes adapted for that temperature. All right, let's see another list of extractivities. This one is very nice because we have to choose the correct option to complete the sentences. And look, we don't have only one option, we have 2 options, and sometimes both are possible. I love these exercises because it isn't that kind of only one of some choices. There is 1 or 2 possibilities here, and I liked that. Let's see. The first one, it is widely used or it's common practice where I live to greet business visitors formally and shake their hands. It's widely used. No, it's common. Okay? Did you come across, did you put off by many people from your country when you were studying abroad? Or were you the only student from Lithuania? Lithuania. Come across. Here, come across is to meet by accident. Okay? But we also see in part A, in part 1 of the lesson, that come across is the natural behavior of a culture, of a person, okay? I tend to behave like that. I come across like doing that. 3. It's considered rude. It's considered impolite not to take your shoes off when you sit on the floor in a restaurant in my country. Ooh, so you should take off your shoes, right? It's rude or it's impolite. They're synonyms if you don't do that. So you should take off your shoes. Check your socks before going to a restaurant like that. Oh, and check your odor before going with those trainers, those shoes, okay? Good advice. Be careful with that. Okay, choose the correct. Oh, sorry, let's continue. While they were living in India, wonderful country, their children came across in the local dialect and quickly learned all the, or sorry, their children came across or became fluent in the local dialect and quickly learned all the nuances or politeness of the language. Oh, here we have only one option, right? They became fluent and they learned the nuances. And remember, I told you about people moving to the Netherlands. The lessons in the Netherlands, for those people from Lavras that would go to the Netherlands, the lessons were in English. So they would take the IELTS test, be approved, and then they would go. And then they didn't have any trouble from home to university, from university to home. But some of them were married with children, and children would go straight to schools, and they would have lessons in Dutch, the language from the Netherlands. And it was very funny because sometimes children as young as 4, 5 years old would be the translators when mothers would go to a grocery store, when parents would go to grocery stores, or the 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 drugstore, the chemists to buy something. Then maybe the salesperson wouldn't know English very well, and then the child would have to talk to the salesperson, to the sales assistant, because the parents couldn't speak any Dutch. But the child in 3 months was speaking Dutch very well, or somehow, right? Very interesting situation. 5. I was very surprised to learn that office workers in the UK tend to have a quick lunch, usually have a quick lunch alone, sitting at their desks, lonely, sitting at their desks. We usually eat together and have 1 or 2 hours for lunch in my culture. Well, in Brazil, it's usually 1 hour. My wife works in a hospital and she has 1 hour. She has lunch and talks to the person next to her. Sometimes she sits with a friend, but it's usually normal to talk to the person next to you. And then she has some minutes to take some rest after lunch. But what are the answers here? Both are okay here. They tend to, or they usually have a quick lunch. And uh, here it's alone, right? They aren't sad, nobody likes me, so I have to eat alone. That's not the case. It's okay for them to eat alone, sit alone, and eat alone, right? And 6, did you get used to eating with chopsticks? Were you put off eating with chopsticks when you were living in Japan, or was it difficult to learn? Oh, come on. If I go to Japan, I already know how to eat with chopsticks. It's not that hard. And come on, Japanese food is delicious. I love it. I really love it. Do you like it? Uh, the first time I went to London, I stayed with a Thai family and they were so nice, so nice. The food was delicious and we could eat using, we could eat with chopsticks. Very nice family. I miss them. Okay, let's move on. I love this kind of exercise. It is, which is the odd one out? Which one is the different words? And we should give reasons for our answers. Oops. Spotting the different one is easier sometimes than explaining, but let's try. We have here adjectives. So we have friendly, sociable, shy, communicative. Oh, you agree that in all these three situations, people talk a little more. And here, people don't speak much. Loud, silent, quiet, reserved. They don't speak much, they don't speak much, they don't speak much. They speak loudly, maybe. And that's not a problem. My wife speaks loud and a lot, but in a nice degree. You wouldn't feel uncomfortable with her. She's, how to say, she brightens an environment with her happiness, and I love that. Polite, rude, friendly, respectful. Polite, rude, friendly, respectful. Don't you agree that these three are very positive? And this one isn't much. Direct, open, honest, and mean. Ooh, mean is negative, right? Mean is negative. The opposite of mean is generous. Let's check. Yes, good. So, shy. The others are all synonyms of being friendly. Loud. It's the opposite of the other adjectives. Rude. It has a negative meaning, whereas the other adjectives are positive, and here, direct, open, and honest are near synonyms. Mean is the opposite of generous. But we have other words. We have kind, helpful, dishonest, and generous. You will agree that dishonest is the odd one out, right? Indirect, disrespectful, rude, and abrupt. Abrupt. These three are negative. Indirect can be negative, but what is the difference here? It has a different meaning to the other adjectives that all mean impolite. This one doesn't mean impolite. In some cultures, to be indirect is a little polite, is to be polite, right? For example, am I fat? No, you look well. Well, that's not to be indirect. Well, you could eat a little less carbohydrates. You should avoid fat. Maybe that's a bit indirect. I'm not saying that a person is fat, or what do I have to decide about that? Well, I don't know. Sorry, that's a bad example, maybe. Unhelpful, kind, offensive, disrespectful. Please, I didn't want to be disrespectful to anybody with my previous example, okay? But kind is very positive, and the other three are negative, right? Formal, reserved, annoying, impolite. Annoying is negative. Let's check why. It has a negative meaning. The other adjectives are synonyms of being kind. Indirect. It has a different meaning to the other adjectives which all mean impolite. Kind. The others are synonyms of impolite and are all negative. And here, formal, reserved, and polite are near synonyms. Reserved is the opposite of sociable. Annoying is someone who makes you feel annoyed, or a person that doesn't make you feel well in the presence. Okay. All right. So very good words, very good exercise. But the best thing is in the end, the project. Research a culture. What do we have to do here? By the way, do you recognize these? I recognize these because I've already been to this place My grandfather took me in the 70s, no, in the 80s. I went to Rio de Janeiro and my grandfather was so nice and he took me to Bondinho do Pão de Açúcar or the sugar loaf. This mount here on the left where this cable car is going to. This is Morro da Urca Hill, and this is Red Beach. My aunt has a house on the foot of this mount on the other side. Very nice memories, very nice memories. But well, the point is that someone is going to your country. Do you know people who have come to work in your country? In what ways has their experience been positive or negative? The idea is for us to ask people about this. Research ways of working or studying in a culture that's different to yours. And let's follow these steps. Interview a person who you know who has worked or studied abroad or come to work or study in your country. Prepare 6 to 8 questions and record the interview on your mobile phones. Very nice activities. Let's think what to ask about. You can create other questions, but here, look. What about people being direct or indirect? Was it a surprise for you? Customs and etiquette. Was it easy to adapt? Cultural misunderstandings. What happened that the person could mention that was a misunderstanding based on cultural differences? National character. What would be a person of that nationality? Were there important people? How would you talk about that? Or the other person would talk about that? And ways of working. How would people work? Were they different from people in your country? But after the person talks about their experience, why don't you ask these questions to check and confirm information? So, do you mean people are more relaxed during meetings? But people are more formal during meetings? Are you saying that it's easy to make friends at the work environment in that country? Can I just check? When you say people thought I was rude, what happened? Because probably the person wouldn't be rude in their original country, but it could happen that the people in the other country thought the person was rude because of cultural differences. Well, the point is that this activity is very nice if you can find someone who has been to another country to work, or another person or somebody that has come to your country to work in your environment. Try to find someone and try to do this activity. Well, by this, I finish this lesson. The video is talking about global work cultures in the Working Abroad unit. If you liked the video, please strike the like button. If you are here until now, please subscribe to the channel. I would really like to see a comment from you in the area, because there are many things we can comment about this experience of moving abroad. It can be a wonderful experience, and I really wish you could have that someday. So see you in lesson 7.2. Bye bye.